Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the world's highest rated podcast. It's the Bulletproof Dental Practice Podcast, of course. And today we're very fortunate to have our friend Clifton Cameron, who is, what's your title now? Are you CEO of LightWave or chief leader?
Chief Dental Officer's fine, right?
Oh, I like that better. CDO.
Yeah, CDO. Yeah.
Not to be
CDO.
confused with the CDL, which is very in demand right now, commercial driver's license.
Yes. Yeah.
You
A
know.
lot of letters. They don't mean a thing, though. You know what? We're just doing our thing, growing a vision, baby. Let's do
No,
it.
you're doing great. So how many locations are you at over at LightWave?
Well, actually, funny you mentioned this. Just got a little ping this morning. I'm sure there'll be some dumb press release about this, but we're at 100. Woo!
Nice.
That's huge. Are you
Dude,
kidding me?
that's
Why do you
great.
make light of that? That's a big
Well,
deal,
I
dude.
think it's like, I've always not been a huge fan of, it's like you meet someone at a conference and you're like, the first question is, how many locations do you have, right? And it's
And
like,
I get to say one.
you're right. It means nothing, right? Like, what's the quality of your doctor group, your leadership, revenue per practice, right? So anyway, definitely making light of it, but no, proud of the team. We've definitely been hunkered down over these past few years and taking a little bit more of a methodical approach.
When we had dinner like 3 years ago, what was your stack at there?
We were in the mid 40s. Yeah.
Okay. So
That's amazing, dude.
Yeah,
That's
dude, good for
awesome.
you.
I mean, listen,
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in DSOs done well.
Yeah.
And, I've had the pleasure of knowing you for quite a while, and I would definitely put you in the good guy category.
I appreciate that.
I think there's a lot of, I have conversations all the time with the recent grads and like, where should I go get a job? I'm like, find a good DSO. Find a good DSO that can train you and mentor you. I believe that this narrative of practice ownership is a little bit too one size fits all.
Right.
And it's maybe my own personal bias because I get to meet the dentist that's been on their own doing business, and they're a lot of times unsatisfied, unhappy. So, it's like kind of asking a divorce attorney if I should get married. They have a different purview, but I do believe that there is a wonderful opportunity for a doctor to have a job in a quality DSO that allows them to participate in the financial organizational benefit beyond their handpiece. So if you don't mind, I'm going to put you on the spot. How does LightWave do that for its doctors? I just want to say.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we, mentioned to you guys a while ago about this, right? Like, we're proud to be America's only DLO, dental leadership organization. And, coming from the start of my career in a truly corporate-based setup, right? It was like, all right, I'm going to bring the good forward, leave the bad behind. And it's exactly that, Craig, right? For me, it was truly dentist-owned, dentist-led. So everyone always asks me, what's the difference with a DLO? Well, first and most important, we're truly dentist-owned, dentist-led. So I've got over 130 doctors on the cap table with me at LightWave out of our 280 total. So almost 50% of our doctor group is a true pari passu owner with our investment partners. And it's been so fun to be able to create that opportunity for so many like-minded providers. And then the second question I get is, how the hell do you lead all these? And I'm like, well, actually, with an ownership mindset, I don't have to, right? We essentially get in a room twice a year, share best practices. And, I would put it almost a little bit analogous to the Bulletproof group, right? The amazing work that I see you guys doing with your like-minded docs, pushing the envelope, technology, all of the above. So specifically, we've got a partnership program at the practice level. You've got the ability to invest once per year at the overall share level, ownership level. We actually do provide a little match with that. And then last but not least, we are doing joint venture structures as well, not only on our partnerships, but also with our de novos.
Very cool.
That is cool.
Thank you for that background. That's great. So,
so the pod, just be clear, just so we don't lose anyone, right?
Yeah.
We got to sink the hook. This is not about all the things LightWave. This is about
I know that.
boots on the ground. No, I know. I just want to make sure that people aren't like, oh, great promo,
paid promotion by LightWave. Hey, by the way, can you send me something for that? The grift is real. I just wanted to learn what you guys were doing, but all kidding aside,
checks in the mail.
The reason why Clifton is here, so you don't tune out, is because we were hooked up on a call for an orthodontic company, and I said, hey, I've been speaking to you a while, talk to me. And it was just unbelievable, the amount of information that came out of your mouth. And I'm like, damn, I wish this was being recorded. Pete's got to hear this crap. This is crazy. So you being a 100-person DSO founder and leader, you have a lot of intel. And Peter and I don't, we get it a little bit secondhand, and our audience doesn't even get it at all.
Yeah.
So I'd like to recreate the conversation we had a couple of weeks ago. So thank you for giving your time to us. It was very interesting to know that there's actually some pain in the market. I figured these almost too big to fail, some of these guys. I didn't realize some of the promises may have to be broken. So give us an update on all things DSO over the last, let's say, 18 months, if you don't mind.
Whew, gosh. All right. You guys just cut me off whenever you have a clarifying question. But no, I mean, I think reflecting back to our conversation, Craig, it was really around, two things. One, longtime colleague joined a group, mid-size emerging group, and 6 months into the conversation, she calls me as a resource, right? I love being a resource for absolutely anyone and everyone in this amazing industry that we're in. And she was like, hey, got a question for you. They missed my first earnout payment. And
oh, yes, I'm remembering this. Yeah.
First thing I thought was, she used the word they, right? That's a problem. Where's the we in that?
I always say that, by the way. I love that you say that. They, I'm like, it is we here.
Yeah,
we are in trouble.
Exactly. We're all in bed together here now at this point, right? They bought your practice. You've got a 30, 40% rollover in this setup. So that was the first thing. And then she said, oh, shit, right? Of course, that's what I'm thinking. And there was really no way to softly land the plane. We all know what the issue is, right? They have a cash flow problem. And unfortunately, whether it's poor leadership, interest rate, credit markets, whatever it is, they were in a problem, right? They had an actual problem. And then the second thing that happened, longtime shine buddy of mine, transition specialist, all of that. He called me about 6 months ago and he said, hey, Clifton, you remember when I called you 5 years ago? And I said, hey, I need to know, as a practice transition, single practice to single practice transition, I need to know how to answer hey, what is this land of milk and honey that is DSO 5 years ago? I need to know how to answer that. He called me and said, hey, Clifton, I need to know how to answer, I lost all of my equity on this turn that I thought I was getting, right? On this extra setup. And I was like, ooh, I don't know how to answer that question for you. So that's kind of the tee up, Craig. And I think that's what you're referencing with regards to our conversation.
Precisely.
Right?
Well, wait. Let's unpack it a little slower, because you threw out some things.
Yeah.
So basically, Clifton, in the space, for those people who don't know kind of how DSO acquisitions usually transpire, they happen by, you get an offer, right? And it's usually a nice big teaser offer. Yep. And then the fine print comes in, and it's an earn out. And usually it's predicated on how long you've agreed to stay. So if it's 2 years, you have 2 earn outs potentially, right? So let's call it 70% cash at close, 60%, sometimes less, depending upon what was structured. Obviously at 51%, the group that's buying you gets control of the entity.
You got it.
Okay. And so and that is the magic, that is the power for them, meaning there's a lot of arbitrage in that, and you potentially, right? Because you get to ride pari passu with retained equity. Problem is, you're no longer steering the ship. So an earnout is an agreed upon amount that you will get provided you reach X parameters in the agreement, right? When at the sales agreement.
You got it. Now, we typically call them growth earnouts, right?
Yeah, growth earnouts. Yeah, but sometimes it can be like, for instance, I got presented with one, Clifton, like years ago, that was like, it was about employee retention, right? Yeah. And growth, and there was like 3 things that you had to kind of check all these boxes because it's a bigger earnout.
Yep.
So just want to make sure that the audience knows that the clarity behind. It's not, you don't get a check and be like, oh, well, welcome to your practice. You are still riding.
Yes.
And your full exit is predicated on the practice performing. Right. And then you have an existential, you have a counterparty risk with the solvency of the group that's buying you. So in this example you just gave, right, you have, if you check all the boxes, you still have a counterparty risk to their financial status. So if they've made a bunch of over leveraged bets, then your earnout is at risk. So I think it's really important to notify these things because people get so romantic. Oh, I got offered this. I'm like, but did you?
Yes.
And the chances of it transpiring exactly the way you think are rough. Right. So anyway,
Correct.
I just wanted to put a pin in that so everyone understands the mechanism.
It's important. A lot of people, we just jumped over a lot of assumptions.
You did.
So thank you.
You got it. Yeah. No, thank you for reeling us back there. Because again, how I answered briefly, right, from a high level to my buddy, longtime buddy, Shine transition guy, I was like, hey, Bob, listen, never has there been more of an importance around the quality of the group that you're joining. So many of us have gotten these pitch decks and we all flip through the first 10 slides to get to the, economics, right? The offer, the multiple, the earnouts, the whatever. What I told him was, I said, hey, if you're advising clients, they need to spend way more time on these first 5 to 10 slides around the core value, the mission, the purpose. How is this organization going to handle the adversity that all three of us know, and many of our audience members know, that these groups are going to face adversity? I faced it, you faced it, we've all faced it.
So they're going to do due diligence on you, right? From a quantitative, your earnings, and everyone gets up your, does a what is it, a financial colonoscopy.
Right.
But you should do the same in regard. How is your leverage? What is your debt, debt coverage ratio, kind of things like that, right? So it's not just, oh, they're full of money. There can be horror stories, just like you're describing with your friend who said they.
Right. Okay. Exactly. Which, again, very likely that she forgot to read those first 10 slides because, again, it becomes this us versus them mentality, right. Even though you've got 7, 8 figures sometimes tied up in bed with this organization, the quality of the leadership and the quality of your other partners, AKA the other practices in the group, everything is predicated on that, not just what happens to me.
Would you say there was a lot of unrealistic offers that were delivered to people where you knew, like it's like the way I want to just point a parallel to associates. Associates will oftentimes say, hey, what percentage of my collections will you guys pay me? Okay, well, it's 32. Right. Well, at this place I get 34. Well, their top producing associate in that ecosystem only does 600 grand per year. So 35% of 600 grand is different from our average associate of 1.2. I'd rather make 32% of 1.2 than 35% of 600. So do you think that there was a lot of deals that were made, these egregious, 9s and 10s or 11s or whatever the multiple is, but in reality, the financial engineering behind it was based on 0 interest rate or a pro forma that would not have existed? Is that what happened to your friend? Is that what she got? Did she get a really good deal, a deal that maybe she shouldn't have gotten, I guess?
Correct. Yeah, 100%. Right. I mean, we've all seen it, heard it, right? ZERP euphoria, right? Are we ever going to get back to that point? I don't think so, personally. Right. I mean, it's as far as ZERP, right? But again,
and ZERP, just so we know, at 0 interest rate policy, when we could borrow for everything for 0.5% or 0%.
You got it. You're right. So the effective rate for us, right? I was in that policy. We were all on that 3 to 4% interest rate. That was our cost of capital to do some of these deals. Just going to say a little provocative statement here. Anyone could succeed in that
100%,
environment.
Right?
When you get to 11, 12%, it takes skill, it takes leadership, it takes putting together a playbook, it takes all of these types of things. So from that ZERP euphoria, everyone gets tied up on these multiples. And bottom line, really, it's, to me, when I look at it, the problem that a lot of these groups ran into is they were capitalizing off of pro forma run rates, right? Not doing the diligence to get in and figure out what is the actual growth potential in this.
Explain what a pro forma run rate is, Clifton. Again, let's pull it back down.
So sorry. So, layman's terms for me, a pro forma run rate is using the word synergy, right? It's saying, hey, we're going to synergistically bring in this, and then we're going to drive. You're not doing any ortho now, but hey, we see that you've got that potential, and hey, our buddy across town does it, and dentists are like widgets, and all we have to do is tell them what to do. And we see, even though you're doing 2 million collections, we're going to value you at 3 million.
We can get forward credit for the work you didn't do.
Right. Exactly. Right. It doesn't work now. The math doesn't work now, but
it will.
It will when we execute our synergy and our proprietary management and systems. And now, when we put our playbook to work in your practice.
Yeah.
It will,
You got
yeah,
it.
we're not buying you at 11 times earnings. We're buying you at a future like 2 times earnings.
Because we're businessmen.
We can't afford
so
not to
we
buy
know
you.
you're just dumb dentists. We know what we're doing here. That's right.
So it was a combination, guys, of literally
Oh, geez.
capitalizing off of run rate. And so then that becomes your baseline EBITDA of the practice. And the competitive market was taking, multiples that were pretty reasonable, around a 6, 7. And now all of a sudden they were 8.5, 9, 10. And then who's left holding the bag? Ultimately, it's the dentist. It's us, right? Because one, we've got to perform to meet that run rate. 2, we've got to grow to realize, our equity on this next turn from that perspective. And then when all those things don't happen, oh, wait, they didn't. And for me, the one thing that the one thing that hurt all of us the most uniformly across the entire dental industry, I would say, was 2021 to 2023. We all felt it. Labor inflation.
Yes.
Bottom line,
yes.
right? Related to CPI,
Yes.
related to everything. But for those of us that got caught with our pants down with labor inflation, then all of a sudden we had wages going up, pricing was either flat or slightly increasing. Then you throw in interest rates going up, equaled
implosion,
distress.
Yes.
Bottom line,
yes.
right?
Yes.
I mean, that is, and so that's where these conversations came in. Like, hey, they missed my first earnout payment. Hey, they had to take distress financing.
So Clifton,
or
yeah. Sorry, I want to ask you one thing. Caught with the pants down. So what did the successful guys and gals out there do with the wage inflation? They didn't buck. They what did they do to prevent it? Because we all had situations where like hygienists are like basically saying, I know I'm getting $35 an hour. I need 90 now in some metros. So what did the people that did it right do through this?
Yeah. Great question. I think it's, again, not one size fits all from this perspective, but I can tell you, what we did at LightWave when we started seeing this, we were, not going to lie, it was a little frustrating for me personally, right? Because I'm a grow guy, but I do have to kind of tip the cap to, some of my investment partners that were like, hey, Clifton, let's hold on. Let me show you kind of how this math works. And once they kind of broke it down to me, I was like, ooh, okay. All right. I'm just a dentist also, so I'm a little bit of a slow learner, but so we actually slowed down, right? We slowed down the acquisition engine. We slowed down our de novo engine. We really valued our cash flow. We took a deep dive into our cash flows to understand how we can continue to grow the business. Yeah, probably more on the organic side than on the growth side, right? But in many ways, we actually brought purpose to that pause. We first started in a weird way, really sexy. We started with our freaking revenue cycle processes because we recognized that if we could tighten up what our non-contractual adjustments are, or, we're 70-30 PPO, 70% PPO, 30% private pay. If we could get better reimbursements from our insurance companies, if we could do, legit payer negotiations or delegated credentialing, it was all the non-sexy stuff that I'm not going to lie, not good at, that we got done in that 22 to 23 range, which actually allowed us to confidently ride the wave, right? Sure, we couldn't lock our hygienist in at 30 an hour where we had historically been and think that we were going to win. So we had to, ride the wave. But in parallel, we had to make sure that we were tightening our shit up on the back end as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah. What's delegated credentialing? I'm sorry, I don't know what that means.
Yeah. So that's, on the group scale, one of the things that we see is that we, in a PPO environment, it is so variable by payer, by plan, by whatever. I bring on a new doc for their first 90 to 100 days, they're out of network.
Yeah, suck and
What
win.
does that mean? Their adjustments are way higher, right? The insurance company, there's a lot of work behind it. That's where guarantees come in, daily minimums, all that kind of stuff, hurting profitability. So what delegated credentialing does is I created a dental advisory board that I needed to for a long time. But now what the insurance companies trust us to do is they say, hey, as long as they're joining your high quality group and you guys are looking at this every single month, if you bring on a new doctor, they're automatically on the plan, right? They're automatically on the plan.
So you get that 90-day jump where the rest of us are waiting. You have 90 days of profit. We're suck and win for 90 days.
You got it.
Yeah.
Exactly. No, not every insurance company or every plan or insurance company does that, but many of them are moving towards that. And that's been, one of those things that we worked on and are continuing to work on inside our group.
Yeah, that's wild. So cool.
Yeah. Yeah. But so I think when you take kind of going back to that 18-month landscape and kind of where we are today. So I think we all felt that pain, right? We felt that labor inflation pain. We felt the interest rates going up, increasing. Pricing slowly starts catching up. I'm starting to see signs, Craig, to be fully transparent, it's not all, doom and gloom out there. I'm starting to see some signs of some stabilization. A lot of these, bridge financing or strategic investments, the only, just so everyone is aware, 99% of the time, a strategic investment or bridge financing comes with so many strings and so many challenges that 99% of the time they are dilutive to existing shareholders, right? So while you might need them to survive in order to get those earnout payments done, they do tend to, take your 3x, 4x, 5x and tend to kind of mute that back. But what I'm seeing on the credit market, maybe, post what happened last year, we're seeing interest rates come down. Guess what? Dentistry is so resilient,
Oh, yeah.
right? I would say we're borderline recession proof ish, right? People got to eat. Tariffs, okay, got it. Like, hey, we're providing service, not product, So again, we got to kind of bob and weave there a little bit. We're certainly not like big pharma right now, who's
Yep.
shaking in their boots when it comes to kind of what's going to happen there. But sure, the elective stuff is still down. Ortho, again, you and I work with, Invisalign a lot, right? It's 2 years in a row to where things are kind of not where we want them to be from the Align side. But I would say from a credit market, from a lender, it is still really exciting to lend to a DSO,
Can
right?
I
Because
can I
again,
ask a
they're
question
leveraging the
there?
benefits of scale. Yeah.
Sorry, Clifton. So let's just
Yeah.
say, we see these sectors getting their asses kicked, with
Yeah.
tariffs and uncertainty in pharma. Does that mean, and I'm sorry for a stupid question, but does that mean that the credit markets then place higher value on dentistry because they have X amount of dollars to deploy? We can't touch that
Correct.
because there's tariff risk. We can't touch this because there's, risks in that domain. Let's focus
Yep.
on these areas. Does that mean it's better for dentists and dentistry?
Yeah, and that's a little bit of the good news, right? That I wanted to bring to this today is kind of saying, hey, like a lot of us probably got caught with our pants down, right? Including me in certain areas. But on the flip side, resiliency, when I'm hearing that from my investment partners or my credit partners, right? Resiliency means really stability.
Got
And
it.
if there's anything that this market is looking for right now, it's stability. So I have been on just in the past 2 weeks, three actually reference calls for dental, not just DSOs or groups, right? But just dental tech, dental whatever, right? I had a couple meetings over in Germany at IDS a couple months ago, right? Where people were really looking at and saying, hey, we're looking for stability in this volatile world that
Interesting.
we're in right now. So yeah,
So more
so I
dollars
think that's
flowing
certainly
towards dental as a sector. Good news.
correct.
Yeah, that's great. That's
Correct.
wonderful.
Yeah,
And then
you got
I
it.
just want to ask one question. I'm sorry, I'm monopolizing some of the questions. So Pete, I want to give you some time to fire away as well. But I always ask this all the time, and I just want to get your take on it because I don't know the industry statistic. But what
Mhm.
percentage of dentistry at this particular moment is consolidated? Meaning, not
Yeah,
you can't like not with the fours and fives and the sixes, but in the major
right,
DSO player world, like what percentage
right.
is consolidated? So like what would you consider to be a major DSO? 20, 30, I don't know. Peter, what do you say is a major DSO? I'm trying to see like what I'm not talking about small regional groups of threes and fours. I'm talking
Yeah,
Yeah, no private DSOs.
no private
So,
DSOs. Yeah.
yeah, so
kind of
something that's
private
yeah,
equity backed DSOs, 10 plus,
there you
Okay.
go.
in
Okay.
that
That's
range.
perfect.
Yeah,
Let's define it as
yeah,
that. What
yeah.
percentage of dental practices is in contract with something like that at this point, or a part of it, I should say?
My understanding is that 10 plus range is going to be in that 20 to 25%. That
Okay.
is, yeah, and
That's what I would have guessed.
that number could be a little stale. Not gonna lie, but M&A has certainly been slowed by the interest rates and kind of where things are. You know, do we see it pick back up? I think we do, right? I mean, I think we start to see more stability coming out of the administration, coming out of all the stuff that's got us all freaked out with the markets and Bitcoin and crypto and all these types of things, right? And I think things are trending in the right direction.
Can I ask a part two to that question, Peter? I'm sorry. This is the last thing. I just want to I want to try to get the landscape. So 75% is now outside of the 10 plus private equity backed. So let's broaden the aperture. What percentage is completely solo? Like what I've got, like where it's just like one practice, either 1 or 2 docs or 4 docs or whatever. What percentage is that in your opinion?
Yeah, purely opinion here, but I would say let's just say 25% is kind of,
so
what
of
we
the
just
75,
said, right? The larger group, right? I'd say another 25% is going to be in that, at least in that kind of group landscape.
Okay, sure.
And then you're speaking solo practice, right? I'd probably say would be in that 50%
Okay,
range.
so
Again,
the majority
totally
are solo doctors, 1 doctor, 3 or 4 chairs, 1.5 hygienist. That you'd say the majority of dentists practicing are still in that category right now.
I would
agree with that. I just wanted to get that.
Yeah.
So Peter, I'm sorry, I've monopolized a lot of the bandwidth here.
No, all I was going to say is I agree with the trajectory back in. It becomes, for a while, Clifton, and you remember this probably even when LightWave started, it was like dentistry was like the darling of private equity, right? To what you said about kind of resistant and stability, and that's going to be a common theme. Also, and maybe this is somewhat of my Craig always says I think too far in the future a little bit,
right?
But dentistry is AI resistant. So if we look at as is all service-based industry. So if you look at things that will not get disrupted, right? The last thing I would probably buy right now is a law firm or a digital like content creation agency or copyright firm or something like that.
Right.
But dentistry, you have to deploy with using your brain and your hands.
Right.
And just like the plumbers and HVAC, we've all seen with the multiples that private equity is paying for that, and it's simply because of that reason.
Yep.
It's simply because of that resistance.
Exactly.
So you always want to put your money to where the puck is going, right? Skate to where the puck is going, not to where it is. And I think there's a lot of smart money that's like dentistry is going to fall in favor again. Yeah. After the plumbers and the HVAC are done with their 18x whatevers, right? Dentistry is going to fall in favor and stay in favor. Maybe it's not out of favor. I'm saying that back to your point of your conversation in Germany,
right?
We are in a great time for dentistry, whether or not you decide to sell, whether or not you decide to join a DSO, whatever. It's going to be prosperous for a long time is where I'm going.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And I would just say, what the question again, going back to my, shine transition guy, right? And, saying, hey, I think it's all about quality moving forward, right? Because now you bring up the point about AI and tech and everything, right? From insurance verification to AI in the offices to, scanning digital workflows, 3D printing, like ExoCAD, like I can't keep up, right? I mean, how do you keep up? I mean, it's crazy how much is actually happening. But to go back to quality, I think what's changed, as I hope we're entering into this next kind of great phase of dentistry, just as you're describing. One, you've got to look at those first 10 pages, right? Like, who are you joining? Who is going to invest behind you, right? Because I think hopefully what we have moved past is this ability to where groups were just throwing stupid numbers, not truly defining earnings or not truly defining the opportunities for improvement of a practice, right? If you're thinking about joining a DSO, go find someone who's going to make you better, not pay you the highest multiple and then possibly leave you hanging holding the bag.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're basically saying there needs to be a strategic plan for what is the run rate, not a performer. What do you guys anticipate doing that I didn't do already, kind of thing? And Correct. It has to make sense. Yeah. It can't be like, oh, we're going to bring in this people and do this, we're elevate your Invisalign by 1,000 cases a year. Like, no, you're not.
Well, let's also be honest too. Let's look at the motivations for joining a DSO. If we're just being honest, I would say that in my experience and when we're talking in our groups, the act of joining a DSO is an act of resignation. It's like, screw it. I'm frustrated. I can't deal. I don't like this or that. Screw it. I'm selling. So by virtue of it, it's like,
I don't say in totality,
I don't
Craig.
say in totality either, but I'm saying that is the majority of the conversation,
it's 80%.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
the majority of the conversations like, I can't handle it. I don't like what I'm doing. I need a major change. F it. I'm joining a DSO. So therefore, like, you have investor pressure coming down on you, but you also have acquisition pressure. Why are you joining? Are you joining because you just can't handle anymore? You have no gas left in the tank and you want to fish more? Like, that's a different avatar. If I was buying a restaurant and the head chef, who was amazing, said, I just freaking hate cooking, will you buy my restaurant? I hate it. If I see another souffle, I'm going to off myself. Will you buy me? Well, do you have a sous chef? Do you have a sous chef? No. Exactly. I just know I want out. I got to get out of this place. I don't even want to see this place again. Will you pay me 8 times earnings? Hell no. But that's like kind of what's going on. Like, it's an act of resignation. And I think
the other 20% though, Craig, I will say, I think dentists get lonely, right? And I think that's the thesis for why we started a mastermind, is that they just feel like they're operating on an island, and like, where's the camaraderie where I can't share these cases? I want a group, I want a tribe in which I belong. And I think that is that's
the aspirational goal of what you'd want to create the DSO. But the reality, the overwhelming majority, over 50%, have this, I couldn't handle it anymore.
Yeah. I think you're right, Craig. And again, I think there's a generational dynamic here, right? As we move, it was almost the boomers, right? And again, we're still there. The boomers are looking at DSOs as an alternative to retirement. Right. And that many times gets, construed appropriately as that act of resignation. And then for us as DSO leaders, it's kind of like we're square peg, round hole.
Yeah.
Right. We're like, hey, we have these growth plans. We have this, we have that. And they're like, whoa, I just want to go fish. Right. And
I just don't want to do dentistry.
But then on the younger side, right, like, that is exactly what Pete's talking about, right? There are these 30 to 40-year-old kind of badasses, entrepreneurial minded, that, truly, if DSOs are listening as well, right, it's like, those are the ones that we want to build around and partner with and really do something special, and 3, 4, 5x our investment returns.
So Clifton, are you seeing, and here is my hypothesis with this, but are you seeing more DSOs in that 25% group that you alluded to, focusing more on startups and DSOs?
Yes. De novo is rocking and rolling right now.
So here, okay. And so what are you seeing fall out of favor in the acquisition? Meaning, is there a Goldilocks number? So the gentleman who has a $2 million practice, or gentlewoman who has a $2 million practice with 3 operatories, right? Where are you seeing the Goldilocks for, if your hopes and dreams are on, I want to get acquired one day, how do you position yourself to be the best suited?
Yeah, great question. I think, one thing that I did at our January shareholder meeting, it's actually had a slide. At the time, we had 94, locations at the time. We've added, 6 here in the last 6 months here, and got to 100 here recently. But I put a slide up and I said, hey guys, we can no longer win with 94 different playbooks.
Yeah.
And it was almost like a mic drop type pivot for LightWave as an organization. No, it's not this big, scary corporate, whatever coming in. It's just saying that we had done not the best job of leveraging the best practices and our overall economies of scale. As far as working together, doctor mentorship, all these types of things. So our annual theme really for us is Power of the Playbook, right? So we're in the process of writing that playbook to make sure that, as we bring in future practices, we're more, or partner with, future practices, we're more transparent with, not this LightWave 1.0, which was, hey, join us, nothing will change. Right.
All right. Well, let's take it out of LightWave for a second. If you were Clifton, the dentist, and you wanted to set up, what would become the avatar that you would want to create for your practice? So that you would be, and you still have the intel of Clifton today. What would be what kind of practice would you create? Would it be 8 operatories with the ability to expand? Would it be 3 that's a micro special? Tell me, where am I the sexiest girl at the ball?
Yeah, it's I've actually got a dinner tonight, and it's pretty easy for me. Okay. Today it's 8+ operatories.
8+. Okay.
Can you give a range there? Sorry. 8 to what?
8 to 14.
Okay.
8 to 14.
Yeah. Okay. 8, that's 8 to 20 if you want to, but I mean, eight plus, 2+ doctors, and a morning huddle.
I love that.
Wait. Times. Put a pause in this. Tell me about this last bullet point.
It's such a tell.
It's so funny, dude. But again, I walk into an existing office. If I don't see something in the break room that shows leadership, some sort of scorecard, I don't care if you're measuring your 5-star reviews, right? Like something that shows the ability to stack hands as a team, just as you do if you were like
wait a second. Couldn't that be an arbitrage for you guys to come in?
It could, but
he wants
we're
to
looking
see a
for
cohesive
leadership
team
that's there.
That is a great. I've never ever heard of someone in your position saying something like that, and that to me speaks volumes about culture.
Right, but Peter, we used to do this all the time. Who here does a morning huddle? It's a tell for us.
Who here calls their patients? Remember the thing we do it?
So I would add morning huddle and calling patients after every procedure.
Okay, and what about hygienist providers? Is there an avatar for that? You said 2 doctors, but what about a hygiene component as a percentage of overall revenues?
Yeah, 25 to 30%.
Okay.
We've seen it. We're in Virginia, North Carolina, and South Carolina. Each state's different, right? Because North Carolina, we've got that 1 to 2 rule. Virginia, you can have 1 doc for hygiene, right? So we do have some benchmarks.
Here's my hypothesis. Back to my question, and you tell me if I'm directionally correct or not.
Yep.
Is that the reason that de novos and startups are in favor is because most practices are not 8 ops or more. Right. So they are getting mopped up quick and the letters are in the mail to them.
Yep.
The mom and pop practices of yesterday, there are 4 operatories and they do well, are easy to surmount for a private equity, meaning I can open up a de novo with my marketing and my prowess and my loans and and my leverage. And I can probably, I don't need to pay for your patients because I can probably just take your patients.
In many ways, yes, right. Like that is exactly right. Right. It's essentially cost of capital again.
Right.
Especially when coming out of seller expectations, unfortunately, are still in that 7, 8, 9x range. And because we as industry leaders, right, or DSO whatevers, didn't do a great job of truly defining earnings on that, we've created almost a seller euphoria, right? To where
this is why we in the mastermind, we talk about like investment. We have these dentists, Clifton, I'm gonna go on a little tangent for a second, right? Yeah. They take, the outdated practice, outdated equipment, outdated education, all these things. And yet they're investing in the stock market and S&P and things like this. And I'm like, so then here comes the new shiny DSO de novo where things are explained. The website looks good. It's clean. It's robust. It's going to be easy to take your patients. It's going to be easy because they're going to be like, why am I suffering through this grumpy receptionist and this shitty chair and this dirty office?
No scanners.
When I could go over here.
Impressions and you're only
why
open 6
I'm
hours
not
a
doing
day.
this. And so this is why they're opening these de novos, is because they know that we have gotten lazy.
Correct.
Not all of us.
Not all.
Right. And I'm just saying, I'm trying to do a wake up call. We've gotten lazy and comfortable with the fact that, oh, my patients come for me. No, they don't.
Right.
No, they don't.
My patients don't mind having an impression. They just don't mind it. They don't mind that we're only up until 2 p.m. every day.
It's this whole consumerism and we're combating it and all this type of stuff, right? I mean, we've all heard it till we're blue in the face. Like we have to wake up and be Captain Obvious here. That exactly right, Pete. You said it first. Our patients are not coming for me. They're coming for convenience and experience and technology, right?
Maybe our assistants and hygienists, maybe. But
correct. Yeah, correct.
Maybe probably not us.
Yes. But I recognized a long time ago, it ain't about me. Right?
Well, every consumer every consumer is satisfied until they're presented with a better choice. Coffee was fine until Starbucks came along and people were like, wait, latte, Michael Bublé CD, comfy couch? Hell yeah. I'm not going back to that place. So this is the thing. Everything's getting better. I was saying the other day, it's like, people say, the dentist will say that my patients don't mind my office. They like my office. Just like there were banks that didn't have mobile deposit. And people say they like seeing the tellers. The tellers are really friendly. Yeah. People rate our tellers as a positive experience. Yeah, but I'd rather deposit via my phone and not have to go there. So consumerism will always win. People vote with their dollars. And dentists are a little bit too egotistical here. They think it's because
this is just a way I want to do, and I feel like it's not a wake up call, but like I think awareness can forever change you. And once you know, and I think this is the value of you being on kind of the other side, quote unquote, right? Having the intel from big money that it's a great like, hey, you know, like maybe I should change a few things so that I'm positioned correctly, or I don't become irrelevant in today's economy.
Yes.
That's all. That was what I would want to tell dentists to do. Just kind of wake up.
People. We're trying to help you help yourself here. We don't want you to wait till it's like too late. Things happen suddenly. I mean, slowly.
Because how many practices, Clifton, do you anticipate from now? Let's just say in the next 5 years, and this is actually, I can't wait to hear this answer.
Yeah.
How many practices of people looking to retire, you talked about boomers, will go without any bids on their practice? Meaning when they're like, I want to sell, and they will go without any.
Meaning how many practices are valueless ultimately?
Well, yeah. How many dentists will not be able to sell because there is no one who wants the asset in which they grew or have. It's not non-zero. It's not a non-zero, right? I mean, there's definitely going to be some.
Clifton, what do you think? So let's paint this picture. 65-year-old guy, 3 chairs in a condoed space, 2 intact businesses on either side, cannot expand. Old equipment.
I was going to say the majority will go without any value there.
Or you'll find
the majority of
those solo
holy
people.
Shit.
Of what Craig just decided. There.
Okay, that avatar. Okay.
Yeah. Exactly. Yep.
I mean, so isn't that the appropriate avatar? 4 chairs, inability to expand. I mean, no ability.
What's the average? What's the average practice across the United States right now? Private practice. Like, what is the average number of operatories
and gross income?
4, 5, 5.
I think it's 4 to 5, 850.
Right.
Is kind of what.
So of that, Clifton, how many of that will get a bid on, hey, I'd like to buy your practice, or hey, we'd like to buy your practice? How many of those?
That becomes a record sale. And we've done quite a few of those, right? To where we, partner with the right doctor and say, hey, your facility is unfortunately not a match, but you're in proximity. You're ready to retire. Let's put a number on.
Oh, patient record sale.
Patient record sale.
Oh, geez, which is pennies on the dollar of what? It's not a multiple anymore. It's it's 50 cents on your revenue.
So what you're saying is the practice is not the nest egg. I mean, it's it's better you work until the wheels fall off and then throw it away. And by throw it away, you sell your records for what? 10% of your gross?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a range, right? There could be a distress sale, there could be an estate sale, there could be a doctor who just wants to join a group. But yeah, I mean, anywhere from 20, 30, 50% of collections, and again, these are not meant to be like punitive setups. And this is not driven, in my opinion, by the DSO industry. This is driven by exactly what you said earlier, Craig. This is driven by the consumerism mindset and the dental student coming out and saying, there's no way in hell that I'm going to work in that facility.
Yeah, where's your scanner? Where's your electric handpiece? I've never used a handpiece like this.
I can't do that, right? Again, I always said, if you took an IsoLite or IsoDry away from me, I'm going to go sell real estate, right? The minute that the tongue got out of the way for me was just life-changing, right? And that's these kids, I can call them that because I'm 45 now, but these kids that are coming out.
I call you kid, by the way, at 53.
These kids that are coming out with robust CAD/CAM experience. Like they're literally pushing me on 3D printing and, hey, I don't want to send off for that surgical guide. I want to print it in the office. I'm like, damn, all right, hold on. Let's find a way to do this, So it's,
So look, you're pointing to a binary solution here. You're either going to be a dental business owner, and I'm talking to the dentists that might be listening to us that's just starting out their career. Right. You're either going to be a dental business owner, which means you have to build at least 8 to 12 chairs so that you can create some entrepreneurial profit. Or you're saying, screw it. Yep. I want to just be a dentist and I want to build my own job. I don't want to work for anybody else. I like purple walls. I like certain way things are done. Yep. I am going to just build 4 operatories because I find there's more profit there and I don't mind managing a small team, and I'm going to go that route. But then you've built yourself a job and there's nothing wrong with it. My dad did that. It was wonderful. 100%, but there's no nest egg there.
Yeah. and you're thinking, Craig, like that would be a little bit more of the boutique, high end, fee for service, cosmetic. Is that
Maybe
what you're
not
kind of?
necessarily, not necessarily,
Not
because look,
okay. Yeah.
really you have to ask yourself just honestly, because it would, if you're going to be a dentist with 3 or 4 chairs because you love the art of dentistry, you really have to get honest with yourself and say, would it not be better for me to work with Acme DSO, who has leadership and an ability for me to invest in it?
Yep.
Or do I really care so much about my autonomy and I don't want the shame or whatever else the biases would be, that I am just going to open up a 3 or 4 operatory thing, maybe go to learn some leadership because I'm still going to have to manage my team, and recognize on the fact that I am just going to maybe make 3 or 4% per year more, but ultimately at the end of the day, I'll have no value in this enterprise. Whereas if I had joined Acme DSO that would allow me to invest, I'd probably have more equity in something.
You got it. Yeah. There's more of the wealth creation vehicle opportunity. It's shifting towards the correct DSO structure and the correct DSO.
It is.
Yes.
Because this idea that you're going to, you know, toil and go through the entrepreneurial journey, because listen, if you have 4 chairs and 5 employees, you're an entrepreneur. You're just, you're not, you don't have a lot of people to leverage, but they're still looking to you. Sandy, the hygienist, is still crying. You're not getting home at 5. You know, at Saturday morning, there's a leak in the office. You're getting called up. So what I'm going to say is it really worth it for you? Because you want to have the autonomy, or maybe the shame or whatever. I'm just being I've been on this kick lately. And it's like, if my daughter wanted to be a dentist right now and said, Dad, I want to balance being a mom. I want to work 3 days a week, blah, 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 blah. I would not want her to open up her own practice. I really wouldn't.
I
Unless
agree.
I said, I can work with you and help you. But if she says, Dad, I just want to open it up outside of New York in a small suburb and blah, 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 it would be like opening my wife like a blow dry studio. I know it would cost me a lot of money and it wouldn't be fun for me.
Exactly.
Peter, what do you say about that? If Amzi said to you, I want to open up a little practice, 3 chairs, 3 days a week.
No, I would not let her do that. For sure. You're right.
So
I would not.
So then, you know, look, if we're saying this to our own children, what are we saying to our audience here?
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, what if you're in so this is probably roughly, if you're listening to this and you're falling in the bucket of this potentially could piss you off.
I know.
Right?
I know.
You don't know what you're talking about.
We're saying for our own children. That's why I said, what would you say for Amzi? Because I don't want us to be disingenuous here and say, oh yeah, go out and do it. If we wouldn't do it with their own, you know, especially for a woman that wants to have children and all this stuff. And I mean, maybe not just a woman, but like, I think women have it particularly hard because, you know,
basically, Craig, what you're saying is if you're a dentist, it's either incumbent upon you to continue to grow so that you can defend yourself like amongst
an ever encroaching. Yes, I believe that.
Or there's no longer this ability to just cruise through 3 or 4 ops without being just a lifestyle business if you're already there.
Yes, I'm saying that.
It's 2 paths in the road, I guess is what I'm trying to say. You define them earlier and I won't go over it again.
Yes, it's 2 paths in the road. And I think there's shame, and there's a lot of people going with the latter option of let me go out and be a rugged individualist and do 3.5 chairs, 4 chairs, because Acme Bank is going to be 110% financing and the supply house will give me all this loans, and then they wind up really disenfranchised, and then we see them at a summit. So what I think the ethos of Bulletproof is like, hey, it's incumbent upon you to create a level of business sophistication for yourself such that if God forbid you injure your wrist while skiing and you're out for 9 or 10 or 12 weeks, your practice can at least produce $1. Does it have to be Clifton's World and be, you know, multi-millions of EBITDA? No, it doesn't, but it should be able to exist without you. And then if you want to work in it, it's accretive to the total value.
It's like the built to sell book that I always talk about, Craig. And to a point, I'm not saying you ever have to sell, but you should always be attractive for a sale, right? Because if you're not attractive, then you're left with no options of just oh shit.
Forget the sale. Let's just go back to the restaurant analogy. If you're a restaurant and you have an iconic pissy chef, that's the equity owner chef in the restaurant, and he is a pissed off dude and he wants to quit, you won't buy that restaurant, but the restaurant has to still serve people. So I would just say you should have the chef. The chef you should be the chef. You should slowly start training another chef that wants to have a long-term value opportunity in the restaurant. And then if you get hurt or something happens to you, your restaurant doesn't go up in smoke. If you want to take on the business and the risk that should have the business, you should evaluate key man risk, is all I'm saying. You owe it to your people. You owe it to Sally, your hygienist, and all the people that work with you. Your business can't just be a hobby, because there's too
another
many.
way to say it, Craig, and again, this is such a provocative thought here, is that if you're still coming out and doing the 3 to 4 type thing, it truly is, the arrows are pointed in. It's all about you, right? You're hanging your shingle, your name, you're building it. It's almost a selfish approach.
It is,
and I think what we're saying on this pod right now is that, hey, warning, the light's blinking and probably has been blinking. The economy's changed. The generational dynamics have changed. The credit markets, the interest rates, everything's changed. And that is something that I had a marketing call the other day and someone brought up the freaking yellow pages and I laughed, right? Like it's like, hey, caution, you better have your shit together. Otherwise,
I hope no one you employ, Clifton, brought that up.
What's that?
Yeah. I hope no one you employ brought up.
And by the way, the distinction that we just kind of circled around that I just want to make a concrete point on is, Peter, you were positioning it in the event of a sale. And I just want to point out that I'm just saying, in the event between the day you start and the day you sell, there's a lot of pitfalls that could happen. That's what I'm saying.
I wasn't positioning for a sale, Craig. I just didn't want to exclude that as an option. And I think back to my question to Clifton is, I think that will be excluded from a large portion of people in the dental field.
So said another way, it's risky the entire journey, and then the destination is not even that great.
Yeah, and it's riskier from a transit. Even if you're not selling it, hey, I want to get an associate. To your point, Clifton, if you don't have a shiny object with technology, these dentists are not the same way that we grew up. They are not going to come work in your dumpy ass practice. And you hear this all the time, like, oh, Dr. Jones's practice is a gold mine. 3 chairs, he cranks it. No. He's a miner that has tapped into the gold mine. You can't spy the gold mine. It's not a conveyor belt lifting gold out. Dr. Jones is a skilled miner who does all on X and can extract or frack the gold from the soil. This is not a conveyor belt lifting gold out. That's the difference.
He is the employee of the mine.
Right. And it's just precarious. It's very precarious. And not only the destination could be difficult, but all along the way, it's very difficult. I don't know. I'm sorry this is a provocative podcast, but I think it's one that needs to be said, because the other narrative is so strong because of supply houses, the banks that give us 100% financing. There's so many self-interested corporations that want us to go out and open 3 chairs.
And the cool thing is like, look, if you're hearing this and it pisses you off, like, there's such a moat around dentistry, meaning, Craig, to your restaurant analogy, that anyone can go buy a restaurant, anyone can go do this, but you gotta, typically you gotta be a dentist to do dentistry unless you're veneer tech. But I mean, so there is such an advantage to where you're sitting. So like, go for it. Like, build that 8, expand, take that S&P money and put it in your practice that you should have done.
I love that,
right?
8. I love the 8.
Risk, right? Invest more in yourself.
Yes.
Right?
And like there's
training.
And there's education for that now, right? And it's not just Bulletproof. I mean, there's other people that we know that teach this in dentistry that have been there and done that. And so like, find that resource, find that group that wants you to succeed. Get in some kind of like encouraging environment where you are spurred to growth so that you have options later in life.
You got it. Yeah. The greatest human resource is resourcefulness, right? And again, it's everything's out there. Pick up the phone, call us, call me, whatever, right? Like it's out there.
Wow.
Which is really exciting.
Man, eye-opening. Anything else that you think that the world needs to know, Clifton?
Yeah, I mean, I would just close with, thinking about kind of, the life cycle that is this kind of DSO consolidation. I'm starting to see or hear grumblings of, and again, I use that word loosely, consolidators, right? We kind of steal that from our medical compadres, right? That I would say are probably about 20, 25 years ahead of us when it comes to health systems. But starting to see this first round of consolidating of the consolidators, so seeing the, this kind of pairing of, hey, I'm a high-end premium DSO, DLO, right?
Just the M&A market.
You got it. What if we kind of brought our 100 together with this 120, or what if we brought this together with this group? So really exciting stuff from that side of the house. Again, nothing really splashy is, necessarily happened yet, but I could see the next 3 to 5 years, that starting to happen. Especially quality to me begets quality. And that's, what I'm always looking for, because to me, it's like the last thing I want to do with the LightWave group is take our nice geographic footprint and like jump to Michigan or California or something like that. Right. So for us and for me, it really is just kind of accumulating and putting like-minded docs together, like-minded leaders together that really can not only create a very interesting and exciting dynamic, but do things that are good for our patients first, our practices, and ultimately the profession, right? That is really the mission that I'm on, is
Amen.
truly try to redefine this group space and remove a lot of that stigma that's out there and provide a legit alternative, wealth accretive, not dilutive alternative for these industry badasses that are out there.
Love it. Love it. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate you coming
Absolutely.
on and giving us the intel from the world we don't exist in.
Yeah, Clifton, always
Craig.
great talking to you, man. You're a super intelligent guy. I like what you stand for, your character, and I've always just enjoyed speaking with you, and I'm just appreciative to be able to call you a friend, and thanks for being generous with your time today.
Same to you, gents, as well. Great to see y'all.
Thanks,
Cool,
buddy.
guys.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
See ya.